Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Trail Talk High Pointing Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and our high pointer that we're speaking with today is Tony Cobb. And Tony, I didn't ask you, where are you calling from?
Calling from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I've been listening to your podcast as I drive across the country. Just last week, driving from Grand Rapids all the way to Seattle.
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks for listening. I appreciate that. And your name is well known in the high pointing community, and so I can't wait to get into your story. Now, can you start off by telling listeners how you got started in the outdoors and what got you high pointing?
Great question. I got interested in backpacking in fourth grade when my high school or my school teacher had me go out to his vehicle with his keys and take the backpack out of his trunk and bring it in for a storytelling of him backpacking on Isle Royal. And I was just in awe of the whole thing and got to wear that backpack into the class. It was kind of fun.
Wow, that's a very specific story. I didn't see that coming, but that's awesome. So then it just took off from there?
Yes, I begged my mom and dad for a backpack from Kmart. And so I had a Trip Pack 3, the backpack that didn't anywhere fit me, but I used it till I was 20.
The old blue light special.
Yeah, yep.
Wow, so you carried that for a long time. That's cool. How big was it?
I couldn't tell you how big it was. Too big.
So where'd you go backpacking? Was it local around Michigan?
Yeah, we'd just go backpacking in the woods, farmers' woods in the backyard. I was just north of Ann Arbor at the time. It was all woods. It's all condos now, but did that. And then my first backpacking trip that was my real backpacking would have been the Red River Gorge in Kentucky as a solo. As soon as I was 17, I could drive and do my first road trip.
That's exciting. So what was your first high point?
First high point was Michigan. With two of my brothers, and we found a different way there because we just saw that's the high point, didn't know anything about the organization. At the time, this would have been back in 93, and we actually went from Marquette, and we went through about 2 hours of two-track roads with a couple vehicles and end up disabling one vehicle and pulling a road with a climbing rope 60 miles all the way up into Lance to get to there. And we find out the guy just, you ran over a water puddle? Here, let me take off the distributor cap, wipes it off, try it now, and starts up after pulling it for like over an hour with a climbing rope.
So Mount Arvin was your first, and then after you reached that high point of your home state, did you think, I want to do the next 49?
I was like the very next year. I was doing a little camping trip with my kids and a pop-up, and we had gone down to visit my grandmother in Tennessee, and we decided that we'd turn it in and do a road trip, with a pickup truck. And the kids were very little at the time. My son was 6 months old, maybe 8 months old, and then so we went and did the second hike point I did was actually Mississippi.
Woodall Mountain.
Yep, Woodall Mountain, Mississippi. Then we went to Mount Driscoll in Louisiana. And then we did Arkansas, Mount Magazine. And then on the way back, we went to the high point of Missouri. So Tom Sauk. That's been a while. It's been 30 years since I've been there. And I actually got to meet Jack Longacre on that trip. We just saw the little sign there. It said like Highpointer Museum kind of thing. Like, what? Oh, let's stop in there. And we talked to him, and we got a book of Highpointer.
That's fun.
Yeah. So we just used the McNally Road Atlas to find where the high point was, and just got close enough to find a sign somewhere. So that's how I got started.
Wow. So you don't have to say what year it was because you just mentioned that you used the McNally Road Atlas, and I think we can all guess it was a while ago.
So true.
So when did you become aware of the High Pointers Club?
It would have been there with meeting John Longacre, and then seeing it, and always had it in the back of my mind at that point. And it really didn't do much after that until I started a sales job. I invented a product, and I was traveling around the country in the early 2000s. And so 2003, 2004, I started hitting them. Oh, I'm got to go here. I got to do that. I would talk. I'm in the rain gutter industry, and so I would talk to rain gutter contractors all around the country. And like, wait a minute, I got to be here. I can go knock this one out. So I was pecking them off very randomly, not like
Mhm.
any kind of an order, until I decided that I thought, wow, it'd be really cool to finish the high pointing quest of my life when my youngest daughter, who was living down in Florida, she was going to do the Appalachian Trail. I thought, well, maybe I can just do the 100-mile wilderness, which is 100 starts about 115 miles before Katahdin, the high point of Maine. And I figured, well, maybe I could do that and then finish that with her. And so the end of her goal could maybe meet the end of my goal at the same. I always thought that would work together, but didn't work out there. She
Mhm.
didn't pursue that dream as much as I've encouraged her with Christmas and birthday presents over the last 15 years to do that. So,
I noticed you're wearing an Appalachian Trail shirt. Is
yep,
that in the works?
that is heavily in the works and on the mind constantly. Um, we are planning, Amy and I are planning the Appalachian Trail starting March 9th of this year.
Well, that's great, and best of luck.
We're excited about Real Geeks. She just retired, and I'm quasi-retired, so allowing us to do it in our 50s, which I was just listening to another one of your podcasts, and they were talking about being 50, and the one that had about you're never too old, the one that swam the from
Naiad, Diane Naiad. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's a very special story, and it's true. I guess you are never too old to do something that you're really passionate about, as long as you stay in shape. You've already done all 50 high points. You're about to start the AT. You've already done little sections of it within the high points, so it's not all going to be a shock.
Yeah, I actually attempted the AT in 2019 and I made it to the zoo. So Springer to the zoo. So I got the first 1,400 miles under my belt, but it'll
Okay.
be more fun with Amy.
Sure, sure. Well, that's fun, and I can't wait to hear all about that. I think it's episode 19. You got to scroll all the way back. I had a guy who finished the IT who thru hiked, and his trail name was Martian. I think it's in the title. And he talks all about the AT, and for him, it was like the people he met.
It's about the people and the food, and it's not about the smiles, not the miles. It was really
So,
exciting to do that on the PCT this last spring. We ran into a group of about 12, 13 of us, and I rented a couple different Airbnbs, and we had a whole big group of people there. So we really got close, and most of them were European. And so we
interesting.
actually had our tramway was called the European Union, and it was a
Oh my
really good group.
gosh.
And we still are on WhatsApp all the time. So
That is fun. I learned the word tramily in that episode. I had never heard of that before. I knew about the trail names, but not the
yeah.
tramilies. You've done all 50 state high points. Have you high pointed with anyone, or did you do some of them solo?
Yeah, so I did most of mine solo.
Hmm.
And I kind of decided that early. I actually did Denali much earlier than in my high pointing career or adventure early. I actually did it in 1998. I did
Okay.
Denali and I did it solo, which not a lot of people have done that,
Just
and so
completely by yourself?
completely.
Okay. Interesting. How was that?
Well, you had to have a team. One of the things when you take your little class with them or your orientation at the ranger station in Talkeetna before you get on the glacier, as you go through the class, and you have to have a team name. And I wasn't prepared for that, and so I became Team Tony. That was it, because it's
Appropriate.
just me. And a team of six will carry like snow shovels.
Hmm.
A team of one carries two snow shovels. A team of six carries a radio. A team of one also carries a radio, which is like with a battery pack, it's like 6 pounds.
Yeah.
A team of six carries two stoves. A team of one carries two stoves. So you are actually carrying. I carried about 100, and I had about 120 pounds worth of gear
Wow.
on the when I landed on the glacier.
How
So
long
you
did it
just
take you?
I summited. I was up and down in 22 days. Um,
Okay.
I had enough food to last me 42 days. Uh,
Wow.
Because my former wife says, you got one shot at this, get it done and do it safely. So I was laying siege to the mountain.
Wow. So, what prepared you for that solo climb?
Um, I think before I did that, I was working out probably 4 hours a day for at least the 2 months before. And then like 4 months before, I was working out 2 hours a day. In Michigan here, I did a lot of climbs on our sand dunes on Silver Lake along the Lake Michigan shoreline where we have, several 100 feet, and you can wear your crampons and you can bite in there, and it's frozen during the winter. And so that was some good training over there and carried the pack, but just laid siege to the mountain. And then that mountain is a mental game. And so I think I was prepared, but mostly prepared. There was no surprises on the entire mountain, which is rather than because I read everything. This is before the internet was prevalent, and so I bought like 3 different VHS tapes of people that did Denali, like hour and a half episodes, and just watched them over and over. Every little detail I was looking at, every detail, because I had to plan it all out for myself. The only thing that I was surprised, and I didn't see it in any books, anywhere reading, is that the electronic lighters, they don't work above like 12,000 feet. And I thought those would be great. The little touch button when you use for your grill that you just click it, because your fingers are like wood, right? And you can't get it to work. Your fingers are cold and they're not working. So I thought, electronic, that'd be a better way. They don't. So I did, somebody gave me a lighter because I was having my electronic lighters weren't working.
So how did you learn about traversing glaciers in Michigan?
Well, I listened to the other guys that had done Denali solo. Watched everything that they did. Had a couple rules. One, I didn't move unless I could see the exact trail where other people had gone. I had very large snowshoes, and I stayed on the trail. I didn't venture it off. I only traveled on the glacier at night. When it's coldest, so I wouldn't even get on there until it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I did mine when everybody else was away in their tents, the lower part of the glacier. So it's going to be firmer there and only stay in the trail. There was a time between the second camp and where the motorcycle hill is there, couldn't see the trail, and it was a complete whiteout, and whiteout in the way that it was in a fog. It was in a cloud, and there's no light. There's no shadow. Here you can see lots of shadows. There's no shadows. You have no depth perception whatsoever. And it really is that way. So I just sat down on my sled and just wait like this, trying to go like this, trying to focus to see if I can see the trail, if I can see a wand poking up. And eventually I'm like, oh, okay, like 20 minutes. I can see a wand right there. Okay, that's got to be 100 yards away. I took 10 steps, and it was a stake sticking up about 3 inches. It just messed me. It was only 10 feet away, and it was the only color. I mean, you can't see any shadow wherever you go in any direction, and you just have to sit still and wait till it cleared out. I would have made camp there if I had to, but I didn't want to take a chance of not seeing any depression or where there was a crevasse.
Were there ever any moments during that solo climb where you thought, I wish I had somebody here?
You get your trail family, and so there's still other people, even though I'm by myself and I'm relying on myself. There's also a tent that's, 20 yards away, all the way around, right? When you make a camp. So are you by yourself? Yes and no. There's people there. And I got to know different groups of people. The Strong brothers were there. There was Purple Monkey Dishwashers, 2 guys from Utah that were there. So there's all these other people that I got to know pretty well. And they needed a break from that close quarters. They needed to go talk to somebody else out of their group anyway. And so I'm pretty social.
That's good. What mountains did you do, or what high points did you do before Denali that might have helped you prepare?
I did take a class. I took Colorado Mountain School, a week course.
Okay.
I've done Longs Peak several times. It's right there in Estes Park. And it was good. I learned some things. I wish the weather would have been better. We could have learned more stuff. But it was at least an attempt of a course that I took. But I watched everything I could read, and I read the books. And I'm not a huge reader, but those books were worn out. I was every knot that I needed to tie that I thought I could possibly use.
That's That's really fascinating. And that's a lot of dedication. Right now, you can just open your phone and go to YouTube and just type in Denali and then just watch hours of video. But to really seek out and like buy VHS, and these are VHSs that you didn't buy off of Amazon, they weren't delivered to your house. You probably had to go look for them. And, books at the library and stuff, it's just not stuff that we're used to in terms of like researching for a hike today.
I think I got rid of them all, but
Yeah.
but it was good. It was fun. That was part of the fun. I always say the fun of these trips, these adventures, half the fun is planning it. The other half is reminiscent about it, because when it's there, it's all
right. You're
suffering.
focused. Yeah. Well, that's like the type 2 fun is like, it's fun to talk about after, but maybe during the event, it's not as fun. Would you ever go back to Denali?
Man, think about it. Don't know that I would, or it would be if I thought maybe I have a younger brother who's a high pointer, him and his wife. They're also high pointers, and they're getting close to 40 or so, their 40s or so. So they're got to be getting close to wanting to do it before they get too old, I guess. They're 10 years younger, but maybe it's a maybe. I won't throw it out. I'm only 56, so I still could go do it. I thought I was an old man when doing it at 31 on the mountain,
Gosh.
but no, I was fine. But here's a good story. My summit story for Denali. Back then, there wasn't the digital cameras or the phones. Actually, there was a cell phone, and I got cell signal, the analog cell phones, on the way up from the 14 camp up to the ridge at 16,000 feet. I was able to call in on Father's Day back home. That was kind of
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
So that was it. So when I used to use a 35 millimeter Olympus rewind, battery operated, point and shoot camera. And my promise was to myself was to take a shot every day. So I would use the tripod and different pictures of there, because it was just me, trying to do it with just 35 millimeter film. And on the way to when I got up to 17,000 feet, I decided that I wasn't going to take a tent up to 17,000 feet. I was going to rather take more food and fuel rather than a tent. Mixed feelings about that, but went up there and dug a snow cave. A beautiful snow cave that could seat 8, and there spent a lot of time and work on it. And even going up the mountain, I don't mind doing the work, because it's my fault that if the walls collapse. And so I literally had the best walls in camp, and that's the ranger telling me that. Twice I had other people who got once their tent imploded at 11,000 feet. A couple Asian gentlemen that were arguing. I don't know what they were saying, but there was just Asian arguing and about the walls on the tent or whatever. And the ranger kept going over there telling them, put the walls, we've got a storm coming in. And they were just arguing. And I had huge walls, and I melted water and made it even stronger and harder over there. And then during the storm, their tent, VE-24 tent, imploded. And the ranger brought 2 of them over there, because the other guy was having such a fighting with these 2. They were all upset with each other. He had to go put them in his tent, and they had 2 of them on both sides, and they weren't talking. They were pissed at each other. So all 3 of them got in a big fight. And so I had to let them stay with me overnight, and they end up losing, their chance at climbing, because they don't even have a tent at 11,000 feet. Yeah.
Wow. So I have a former podcast guest that I promised I would ask this question on his behalf. If you decided not to go back to Denali, what would the reason be?
I felt like I got really lucky with the weather.
Okay.
And I don't want to push my luck. When you got something really good, it's okay to say I win. Tom Brady can quit when he wins the Super Bowl, right? Or some of these I don't even know if he did win. If he did win, but he retired, right? You retire when you're at the top. You don't push it.
Okay.
I built my company up and sold it when it was doing really, really well, before the economy hit, so sometimes it pays to quit while you're ahead.
All right. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, what did the Rangers say before you went into the base camp? And I'm sure you had to have a overview with the Rangers. What did they say when they found out that you've never done anything like this before? Because I'm sure they're looking for some experience just so that they know, who they might have to rescue.
They definitely were keeping an eye on me. I felt like they
Okay.
were, coming around a little extra to say hi to me and how am I doing, checking me for altitude sickness. But I did it by the book. I mean, as far as adjusting to the altitude, wasn't
Yeah.
pushing, doing exactly what was told, just how much even water I was drinking, writing it down, trying to stay hydrated and doing everything right. Because I only got one shot at this.
Yeah.
And I want to mitigate every possible risk I could. So I remember the ranger there. I wish I could remember his name. He had long blonde hair. He was a famous ranger that's been there. He did the talk. I got pictures of him there giving us the talk and, this and that over there. And then when you land on the glacier, they tell you the first thing you should just wait there one day before you take off. Some people just take off and start going up the glacier. Well, by the book, go there and just rest for the first day, which is what I did. But I buried really good food, nice big smoked ham. I mean, wasn't on a budget here. I was going to have gourmet when I get back there, and you had to bury your stuff down like 3 feet in the snow because you didn't know whether it was going to melt 3 feet or whether you were going to get 6 feet of snow there. And so you got to stack the wands all up there and play some Tinker Toys, kind of make a little thing so you can find your food there. And we played volleyball there. And the same ranger came in with us, and he were playing volleyball. And I've got a great picture of him. He got injured playing volleyball, and he's bloody all over his face and his blonde hair and his ranger hat. I got a nice picture of him. This is the guy telling us to be safe,
Right.
And he gets hurt playing that volleyball.
All right. So how was Summit Day?
Summit Day was, I did it by the book. And by the book was you go up to camp and you rest a day before you go to the summit. And you know how it's all weather permitting, and so everybody moves up to that camp at the same time and fighting for real estate. And I put in my time, got in my nice comfortable ice cave, which was minus 15. It never got above minus 15 inside there. At least you get to 0 degrees if you had a tent up above ground. But I was down in there. I actually just took a hole, dug it out, and cut some blocks and made like a chink wall on the side of it. So I had a little bit light that naturally came through, and it was really nice. Got a little dehydrated on that day, a lot of work to get done, and getting set. That was probably the low point of the trip.
Okay.
I had a little picture of myself with my 4 little kids. Remember, I'm 31 years old, so my youngest was not even a year. Or he would have been 2 years at that time, 2 years. And my oldest was 8, my 3 girls and then boy. And I had a laminated picture, put that on a wall, and I pulled that out and put it right in the snow on the wall there. And it had a kind of a little emotional time. It's like, what are you doing there? Do not screw this up, dude. Okay. You made it this far. Every step, be careful. And there was 51 people in camp that day.
Wow.
And I was the first one out in the morning, got a couple things of water. I'm going to go drink. I need a drink. I get out and everybody's going for Summit. And I'm watching them all go up to Denali Pass over there. And I counted all of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, there is 49 people going up this over there. There's only one other person. I heard there was 51. Someone said there was 51 went by. And so, yeah. And 49 people went up there. And I waited and I met the one gal whose boyfriend who was going up there first. He was leading the pack, and he went up and over, and then everybody else went around. You can't see him. And that's a third of the way to the summit. Denali Pass is from the high camp.
Okay.
And I was just thinking like, oh, I'm missing my opportunity. But nope, I'm doing it by the book. And she just wasn't strong enough, the other gal there that was just sitting around talking with me. And we watched them all go up there, and there they go. They all went past. And you're just thinking there. And then all of a sudden I saw someone come back. I'm like, oh. And then another. And I watched them all come back. All 48 of them kept back. And the only one that went there was her boyfriend. And he did go all the way to the summit and come all the way back down. So only one person summited that day. Everybody else wasted all that energy going up there. Or you can call that acclimating. But
sure.
But the next morning I was the very first one to Denali Pass.
And why did they turn around? Was it weather?
It got windy, that they said it was windy. Sometimes it just takes one person to turn around and everybody goes, oh, they're turning around, I'm turning around, and it's up for the first person didn't see that and they just kept going. So I waited. Next morning, I was one of the very first ones up there. It's really cold, but it wasn't any colder than it was inside my ice cave, so I might as well get up and go.
Right.
And so I did. Got to 18, had shot a whole roll of film between the high camp there, and just past Denali Pass is the Japanese weather tower that's stationed there. And I remember I switched out a roll of film right there. So I've got a good full roll to keep taking, and I went past the football field, and everybody was passing me. I was going slow, one step at a time. Every step counts, and I'm not going to screw this up. I'm not roped together. They're roped together. Went through very fluffy snow to get up to the ridge, to the summit ridge, and I got to the summit ridge, and there's still like maybe 3 parties of 6 that are on the summit or on the ridge ahead of me. And that ridge is just such a tight edge. It's literally like that. And I've got to let them go past me. And that was the coldest, most difficult time, was to just sit on the edge and let these people walk by me and then try to go a little ways before the next group to stop me.
Wow.
And then I eventually get to the summit, and there's one other guy that his partner had turned around. And he was from Ukraine. He had a nice Ukraine flag there, yellow and blue flag right there on the summit, whatever that post was that was there. And he's got a big Pentax camera. It was a perfectly clear day. Like, you could see green, whereas you haven't been able to see green for a couple of weeks. You can see it in the distance. And he had a Pentax camera, and he would take off these big mitts up there, and he would adjust his camera. And his hands had just got to be freezing. That's the camera.
Yeah.
And he didn't have liner gloves on there. Then he put them back in his pocket and take another picture. And so I gave him my camera to take a picture, because I took pictures of him with his camera. I'm like, here, take my picture. And so I wanted to take so I took my mask off for a quick second over there. And I was like, and he's like, save film. I'm like, save film? No, shoot the roll. I got 3 rolls right here. Shoot the roll. And so he takes one more picture. So he only took like 3 pictures of me. And I was going to change the roll, because it was winding back up, and it would automatically wind up when it hit the last picture. It would rewind. So I put that in my bib, unzipped my jacket, put it in my bib in my overalls, and put my camera there. And I was going to take off my gloves and change this over. While it's a little windy on the top, I still have my lanyard on with my ice axe on, but the wind, as I'm trying to do this, the wind is blowing the ice axe, and it's just going to mess my hand up. And so I'm not going to be able to do it. So I take the lanyard off, and I put my ice axe real stiffly into the ground. Got it. All good. Okay. He moves over closer to me to block the wind as I'm going to change my film. As he does that, he bumps my ice axe, and my ice axe starts to fall off. He quickly steps on the lanyard, okay, as it's leaning over there. As he steps on the lanyard, and he's going to bend over to pick it up, I want to steady him, because he's not very steady. I reach over to steady him. Out pops the camera out of my bib off the north facing.
No.
So all the pictures that I have from the weather station all the way to the summit, including the 3 summit pictures we just took, are gone with that camera. It's gone. And then I'm like, wow. You take pictures of me. And this is the same guy that's saved film. He took pictures of me on the summit.
Oh, and gosh.
I was mad. I was upset. I got all these emotions going through your whole head. Like, oh my gosh, I did this. This is a 98. I pulled out my cell phone that I babied the whole time and kept warm and kept my batteries warm, and call home only to get an answering service or answering machine. So I left a message that I was safe on the summit. But that was my summit. And so from there, I don't have any pictures on the way down. And then I have this guy from Ukraine. And when I got down to 14,000 foot, I went over to had some envelopes with stamps. I put every stamp I had on in one envelope and addressed it to myself and said, you send me pictures back to here. And that dude waited 6 months to send me those pictures.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I did end up buying a camera from the Purple Monkey dishwashers for $100 at 14. So I do have camp pictures again from 14 down, but they were all overexposed. Something was wrong with their camera. They didn't
Oh
come out from there.
man.
So anyway, that was
Wow.
my Denali. Yeah, I took my time coming back down because getting up there's, you know, is what do they say, optional, right? Whereas coming back down is not. And so I spent a night at
Mandatory, yeah.
17. I spent another night at 14. I spent another night at 11. I did not race back down. And everybody else,
Yeah.
most people summited the same day. They all raced down there, and none of them got out before I got to camp because of the weather. You know, it's only 1 in 3 days you
Sure.
can fly. So I spent an extra 6 days. I summited on day 15. And we waited. I still had to wait several more days before the weather cleared. And of course, they in base camp Annie back in the day there, she would, make you get out and walk up and down the runway when they had, 2 feet of snow to make a runway. And so you'd all have to get out with your trekking poles and your skis and walk up and down the runway. And if you didn't, she would take your name and put it to the end of the list. Well, my name was already at the end of the list, but
Wow.
they had to do, I don't know, like 9 trips before they could get to me there. And then they even had such a backlog of people trying to get out of there that they were taking 4 in the planes where normally they can only take 3. And then they would come back and just pack the whole thing full of luggage. And so they had all the luggage stacked all up. And I realized that, man, I'm going to get my luggage for a week. So I'm the last one here. I'm putting my bag in the front. So I was able to get my bag. Some advantages, but made it back off. And it was just missed summer solstice in Alaska, which is a big deal. I was hoping to get
Yeah,
home.
yeah. Well, that is so interesting. And, maybe it's better that your camera fell and not your ice axe. Who knows?
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
But you do have the summit photo, right? Just 6 months late.
2. Yep, and got it blown up really big.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's great. Well, what a unique experience to have done that solo and to have all that preparation under your belt.
Mm-hmm. I think part of it was I did a winter camping trip at altitude in Colorado to prep for this. And
Sure.
that's when I
Okay.
decided that I was going to go alone. Because if you're depending on anybody else, everybody is, I don't want to get political, but when you're having to rely on everybody else, you're less self-reliant.
Yep.
And you're not as dependent as you need to be to take care of yourself. So when I went backpacking up at Conundrum Hot Springs near Aspen, or at New Year's, and we got way up into the mountains, 11,000 feet at a hot spring, and it was just good winter camping experience because that's really what you need to do Denali. You need comfortable winter camping experience. You need to be able to keep yourself comfortable in uncomfortable weather.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, what sleeping bag did you use?
I used a no brand minus 60-degree bag that weighed 8 pounds.
Wow.
And I still love that thing.
So without the internet, where did you get that?
Did research.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phone calls. Phone calls and researches because we bought 4 of them with our group that we were trying to put together, but then they all back out. That's why I'm going to go by myself.
So then after that experience, I would imagine the other peaks were pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you would think so. You would think so, but they're all individual challenges. They're all individual. I got turned around on Mount Whitney coming up from sea level. Had to do that one twice. I hit Mount Hood. I got blisters on the way up and had to turn around on that one the first time. So they're all really unique. They're all exciting, and I want to do them all again, at least once.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. So what turned you around on Whitney?
Just altitude sickness. I got down just went from San Francisco, didn't allow any time for that. Was just on the way back from a work trip and thought I could pull it off. I ended up doing Wheeler Peak on that same trip on the way back. And then 6 weeks later, I went and did my first real road trip to do a lot of high points. I had a trip, a load of materials that I sold down in Texas which was great. It literally, after I've been doing this for 15 years, it's the closest I've ever come to Guadalupe Peak for sending the load to it. And I got the load, the order like 3 weeks before I was leaving. So that was great. It was like a $1,500 just a delivery fee. So my pickup truck, I said, well, I lived out of my pickup truck. I went and did Guadalupe Peak, Texas, and I did Mount Whitney, and I did Mount Hood. I did Boorah Peak, and that's where I got my trail name for my my Appalachian trail name that I use all the time, because I was climbing up Boorah Mountain, and it's a Boorah Mountain or Boorah Peak. I keep seeing different things.
I've seen both. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was up there and I was winded, and I was trying to cut a video on Boorah Peak, and I was narrating and saying, "Well, I'm almost at the top of Boorah Peak." And I got to redo that. I had to redo the video like 3 times, and the guy comes, "Okay, Boorah, okay, Boorah," and so that's my trail name is Boorah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So Boorah is my trail name, and that's embroidered on my backpack. And my YouTube channel is Boorah Cobb. Cobb is my last name.
Okay.
So Adventures of Boorah is my has some of my trip stuff on.
Oh, that's fun. I'm going to check that out. And I will also include that in the show notes for listeners to check out as well.
Yeah. So then I did Mount Rainier, which they wouldn't let me do, even though I tried to apply for it. The superintendent has to sign off on it. It happened to be in the year there was a lot of crevasses. There was 8 bridges that year over top of crevasses during that time, which is a lot. Usually it's just like 1 or 2. And there was like 8, I think, at one time. I think there was only 6 when I went up, but there was 8. And so I ended up wanted to hire a guide service so I could get this one done. This would have been like number 46 for me. Ended up having, all of them were full. The 3 major ones that service Rainier were full. I ended up hiring, they get like 50% go to one company, RMI, and then 2 other companies get 25%, which is like 14 climbers or 7 climbers. In above 10,000 feet. That's all they can have. Pretty sure that's exactly how it works. And so but all the other guide services around the world, they get one trip with, I don't know, 4 or 6 climbers. They all get 1 permit per year. And so I hired the Colorado Mountain Guides out of Durango or something. And they basically just subcontracted, hire a guide up there to run it under their name or whatever. It's some money involved with how that works. But I think there was one guy that actually came from Colorado, the lead guide. Anyway, I was, and there was a team of 4, and we were all set to go there. I thought, well, I'm probably going to be the oldest one. I don't know why I always think I'm going to be the oldest one. But I thought, I'm going to go up to Camp Muir, which I've been to a couple times before, at 10,000 feet, and you need a climbing permit to go above that. And so I'm going to go to Camp Muir and stay there for a couple nights and then come back down. This way I'm kind of a little bit already acclimated, come back down. That was my plan. Also, I'm hanging around Ashford there where all the climbers are. I ran into this guy, and he had just got removed from an RMI group because he couldn't keep up with the group. Well, this is my understanding, so don't get me take this, but they're only allowed to have 14 climbers over there, but they also have a lot more people that are signed up. And they removed some people from the group. That's my theory. I could be wrong, but Mohammad got removed from a group because he couldn't keep up. Okay. And I told him, well, I'm going to go to Camp Muir. If you want to go to Camp Muir, you can come up with me. And he says, well, I would love to do that. And I go, well, I can go get a permit. And he go, but if we're going to go to Camp Muir, we could go to Ingram Flats, which is 11,200 feet. And there's 2 of us. We can go together. He's like, oh, we could do that. So we should do that. So we would have applied for our permit and spend 2 nights at Ingram Flats, or 1 night at Camp Muir, 2 nights at Ingram Flats, and then another night at Camp Muir. So a 4-day climbing permit that we have. So we get to Camp Muir. He does okay. He struggled like everybody struggles to get to Camp Muir. And the next day, we roped up. He asked me to cut the rope in half, because he'll buy the rope. So we cut the rope in half so we don't need all that rope for 2 people. And then we went to Ingram Flats. And it was so funny. He's critiquing all the people. I watched him. He tied his knots, he did everything well. They did a good job training. He's a computer programmer. He's from India, lives in New York City, computer programmer, really wants to do this, and was just heartbroken that he got kicked off the group. And so we're up there at Ingram Flats, and we're watching all the climbers come down. We set up our camp. We're watching all of them, and he's critiquing them. He's like, those are work boots. Those are not even real climbing boots, or they're not even tying their knots correctly. And he would point to everybody over there and critique them as they're coming down the mountains. And so he's like, we can try to go up the mountain a little bit tomorrow, And so next thing you know, 11:30 in the morning, 11:30 at night, we are roping up to see how far we can go up to the summit on this. Now, I've got a climbing trip scheduled in 4 days. So when we're going up there, we get up there, we go across the cleaver, across the glacier. It's about 8:30 in the morning, and we're about 400 feet from the summit, elevation-wise. And another group of climbers is coming down. As they're coming down, he notices that it's the group he got kicked off of.
Oh my gosh.
It's a female guide. And she recognizes him. She says, Mohammad? And I'm letting him lead at this time. And she said, Miss Chris, how much further? She says, like 400 feet. You'll be on top in 20 minutes, And his whole team is giving him high five as they come by,
Oh,
good job,
my
Mohammed.
gosh.
Keep it up. Going, Mohammed. And she comes to me and she's like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm just a client of Mohammed's mountain guide service. He charged me $500 so he can take me up here. And so 40 minutes later, we're on the summit of Rainier.
That's good. I'm happy for you and I'm happy for Mohammed, honestly.
And so we got back down to our camp, and then we were just like, we're just going to take a nap here. And he's like, no, we have to go back because they're going all the way back. We need to rub it in. So we're going to go all the way back down. So we did go all the way back down.
Good.
So we could kind of rub elbows with him a little bit that Mohammed could do it. And so I got him a baseball cap and sent it to him for Christmas. It says Mohammed's Mountain Guide Service.
Oh, what a great story. I'm so happy for Mohammed.
Yeah, so the next day I meet up with my group and they ask me, well, what's your most recent climbing experience? Well, so I went back up and did it again with them, which was great, and had a good time doing that as well. But that's how I climbed Mount Rainier twice, once on accident.
That is cool. And I would imagine, like, if you get to Camp Muir and you're a climber, you're going to want to go, okay, let's just go to Ingraham Flats. And then once you're there, it's like, well, if the weather's good the next day, why not? I mean, why would you go back down?
Since then, I've been back once, and I did what I refer to as a charity climb.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I go do the climb, I don't charge anything for it, but you got to donate back to the association, the foundation. Yeah. And so it makes it, for a half the price or a third of the price. I've done that and with Gannet Peak as well.
Oh, that's really fun. Can you talk about Gannet or Gannet?
Sure. So I'll do Gannet was my 49th. And I did that right before the convention, the Montana convention. Mm-hmm. I did it the Southwest Ramp. So out of, was it Clay City, Cement City, or whatever that is there, just north of the Yellowstone National Park. So I did it rather than going over the Frozen Death Plateau. I went up the South Ramp by myself. That was amazing. It was just so much... it was just beautiful. It was fun. It was exciting. I recommend that anybody going up that ramp, that route on the Southwest Ramp, is that as you're going up, you constantly look back. It's very easy to get disoriented on the way down. You don't remember. You're so focused on getting to the top, you forgot how to get back down. And like some of the summits, like say even Boorah Peak, they have the little bullseyes kind of point you the way. Through the Chicken Out Ridge or other mountains, they have the little bullseyes. I think they should have them on there because I think that's why that gentleman lost his life. That young man lost his life because he didn't know the way down and tried to make it down where he wasn't familiar with and fell 40 feet. That was just right there during the time of the convention. Wow. That's my recommendation for that route. Mm-hmm. I think it's much easier than the route. I haven't done the Frozen Death Plateau route, but I didn't feel like there was any climbing involved or any rappelling involved. It was just, some good scrambling always recommend people go, if they want to go do that route, I recommend go to the climbing gym 3 times and practice your down climbing, because people usually fall down, not up. They're climbing up.
You're right.
So
You're right.
that's my recommendation if you're going to do
That's
that one.
good
And the
advice.
big chicken out ridge would also help people that they just be more confident, rather than clinging. You can look where you're going to put your hands, your next step. So I think that's what people need, that confidence. Yeah, then Gannet Peak. Done that one now 3 times. That one is twice, 2 charity climbs, and then my one first solo. And I did the Glacier Trail route out of Du Bois. So the untraditional route again, but hiked in with all my gear. And then when I got to where you park your vehicle, there's a trailhead, there was a sign that said that at Star Lake that there's a dead horse that's right off the trail. It says 3 things. Don't travel there in the early morning or the dawn or dusk period of time. There could be a bear in the area.
Yeah.
Don't travel alone, and carry bear spray. Well, I don't have bear spray. I'm going to be alone.
You're alone.
And anyway, so I walked by the Star Lake, never even seen it. I made sure I walked by during the day. I did see I never saw the horse the first time walking by. I went up there, did the summit, had no issues with it, got as high as I could, made the camp. I did have one little bit of drama. Wanted to get up really early so I could see the sunrise as far up there before you get up to the Gooseneck Glacier. And I laid everything out. I just used a bivy sack because there's no chance of rain for like a week. And I had my bivy sack, I had everything all laid out perfectly so I could do it in the morning. And during the night, a little marmot came there and stole my sunglasses.
Oh, gosh. Sunglasses.
And you're going to be on the glacier without sunglasses. And you can
What
burn
a little
your eyes.
stinker, that marmot.
Yep, he wanted the salt off the band. That's what he wanted.
Oh,
And so
okay.
don't trust those marmots even at night. So I took everything apart, repacked everything twice. Oh my gosh, where to go? Oh my gosh, that's what that little noise was in the back of my head telling me that there was something going on, and that's what it was. He stole my glasses. So I end up using to protect my eyes. I actually end up using my bug net. Okay, by wearing my bug net, and that would cut down on some of the light getting into my face. So I had to wear a bug net all the way to the summit.
And that was good enough?
I do. It was. I made it.
Wow. Yeah, well, you can still see.
Yeah, I can still see. So, but very enjoyable. I've done it twice through the Ink Wells, the Indian reservation. Paid the ransom to get there. And that's an easier route. Amy did that with me, her first real backpacking wilderness trip. And she rocked that really well. And we went there with 3 groups. There was other members of the club. I can't remember their names right now. We're all friends on Facebook. So look at my Facebook page, Tony Cobb. Back in I guess that would have been 2021. We did that.
Wow.
That was that one. And so I've done that once. I did it with Will Dreyer as well. I think he's just finishing his 50. I did that the year before. Him and I did. I took him up, guided him up that one.
So what were some of your favorite East Coast hikes?
Katahdin was fun because I got to do it with my brother, my youngest brother. And we did that. And then we did the 100-mile wilderness southbound. And that was like lit the fire for my next adventure, right? That was pretty exciting. That was like number 48 or so, 49. I did 49. And then when I did 50, my brother also went with me to Hawaii. And we did 50 in 17. Yeah. So I did 50 by the time I was 50. That was my goal. So
cool.
Yeah,
wow, that's awesome. So what was your favorite high point out of all 50?
I mean, Denali's got to rank up there, but I've got good stories from the other ones. I'll finish the story with Gannet just because I've done Gannet 3 times now. And when I did Gannet the first time, and there was that story that said that by Star Lake, that horse. Let me finish that story with the horse.
Oh,
I went back by there and I'm like, oh, I can't go by Star Lake. It's going to be too late in the evening. So I'm just going to hold back here and then I'll just push all the way out the next day, which is what I did. Got into, as I went by that area, I could smell it and it just reeked. I mean, nasty, like rotten meat, just nasty. And it looked like an earthquake had gone through because there was all these little pine balms all over the trail. There was a big old muddy spot out in the lake where the horse had been. But it just reeked. I just wanted to get out of there because it smelled so bad. And the flies, oh my gosh, talk about agrihan flies on the island. This was just that bad, but it was all intense in one spot. And I'm seeing pieces of meat. I'm like, nasty. I just want to get through there as quick as possible. And I did. And then when I got to Du Bois, I was outside at the Cowboy Cafe there talking to some people. And I see four National Forest Service workers walk in that look like they were just beat to death, tired from the trail. And they were sitting down eating. You could just see them got 3 pitchers of water and they're just drinking water. I'm like, oh man, they got to know something about that horse. So I go walking in there and use the restroom and I come back. I'm like, hey, you guys just happen to get back from Star Lake? Nodding their heads. Yep. I'm like,
mhm.
do you guys happen to take care of a certain horse carcass there? Yep. They nod their head again. Not saying a word. They're just tired. You can just see they're drawn out in their face and their lips are chapped. And I'm like, did you guys pack that thing out? No, they shake their heads. No. I'm like, did you guys bury it? And it's all rocky there. I don't know how they could do it. And they're like, no. Give me a disgusting face like, no. I'm like, so what'd you do with it? And one of the guys takes his hands and goes, like that. And I'm like, you blew it up? Like, and they all look at the one guy. That's his full-time job for the Forest Service, is to blow up carcasses to keep them away from, so the animals could eat it quickly and it doesn't bring in the bear.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never knew that. I didn't know that was a job title.
You get to fly around with C4. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that explains the mess.
That explains the mess and the branches, why they were all broken and everything, and why the water was all muddy and everything. They just blew it up in the water. They wanted to know how much was still there. What time did you go by? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, I think, when I went by there. So
that is interesting. And so that's so that a bear doesn't come and eat it, and there are smaller chunks for other animals to eat it?
I guess the birds probably did a pretty good job of that. So
sure.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was a unique experience. It's not every day you run into, that scenario.
Yeah.
That crime scene.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So would you say that Gannet, maybe not for the horse carcass, but would you say that it was one of your favorite high points just because of the other parts that are involved with that high point? I mean, I've never climbed it, but every guest that has said it was so beautiful.
It is. It honestly is just so amazingly beautiful. And I highly recommend the fishing there. The last time I took a group to, we planned we were going to do fresh fish tacos.
Cool.
I was able to walk by this lake, and the other group wanted to keep going. It's only another mile to the Stetter camp there, and I literally pulled out the fishing pole, caught 3 fish in 3 casts, had them cleaned and inside of a Ziploc bag in 14 minutes. And
wow!
And so that was pretty fun to be able to do that, and then cook them up for dinner, make some fish tacos. Not worth the effort, but just a really cool story.
Oh, that is so unique. So which one would you go back and do again?
Oh, man. I'll do Rainier again. I'll do Gannet again. I'm going to do Whitney in 2025, right before the convention again.
Oh, yeah. Can you tell the listeners how you plan on that approach?
Sure. Yeah. So I want to start at the Mexican border on the Pacific Crest Trail, which connects up with the John Muir Trail, which has a little, the very bottom of the southern part of the John Muir Trail goes right by the Whitney and goes out the Whitney porthole there in Lone Pine California. So we're planning it. I just looked in the
Oh, yeah,
magazine,
that's right.
and it just came in the mail today. I
Hmm.
just got that, and I was looking at the convention, and just trying to work the dates to figure out what day do I need to do my Pacific Crest Trail permit, so I can get a permit that allow me the flexibility to go anytime I want to through the John Muir Trail. So I don't have to do the lottery. I don't have to do the Mount Whitney lottery. I can just get the PCT permit, and I'm good to go any section of that trail.
So you're going to do the PCT, stop at the convention in Bishop in 2025.
Right, and then finish out all the way up through Yosemite. That's the plan at the moment.
Wow, how exciting. So you're going to do the AT coming up. What other long trails have you done?
Not really any. I've done the AT multiple times, multiple sections. Took my grandsons to it. I've been backpacking on Isle Royal with each of my 4 kids when they turned 8. We've worked on a lot of the North Country Trail. We've done about 400 miles of that.
Wow.
The whole from Michigan up to the bridge, and we actually we hiked across the bridge this last year on Labor Day.
Wow.
I've done Kilimanjaro in Africa
Fun.
with my son, and we summited on Father's Day. That was extra special for me in
Wow.
2017. And I made an attempt on Aconcagua. And I just made that attempt 2 years ago, and the wind kicked us off. If I go back, I will do it solo.
Okay.
But we're with the group. Doesn't, they control your destiny, and that's kind of,
It's not for everyone.
I can wait. So
Sure.
I can wait the storm out. I can wait 3 more days. I don't have to be home.
Sure. You're right. I mean, it's a business guiding, and it's almost like tables at a restaurant. You got to turn them over. You got to get the next customer in. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's the nature of the beast, I suppose. So now you've done all 50 high points. I always ask people who have done all 50, what's next? What are your other lists? So you've mentioned a couple of the 7 summits. Is that on the horizon?
No, I have no desire to do Everest. I would like to do base camp. Hike to base camp. Amy and I we're very adventurous. She's retired. She just retired here in her young 50s. So she's got some, we're planning to travel for 6 months out of the year. So this year it's Pacific Crest. They got Appalachian Trail. We got Pacific Crest Trail. We're going to do the Camino in Europe. We're going to be doing quite a bit of that.
El Camino de Santiago in Spain. That's awesome.
Yeah, so those are kind of on our list, and we like to ski. We just picked up scuba diving, so scuba diving is a new thing. I'm possibly putting together a Facebook group for people who are interested, high pointers that are interested in doing my other passion, which is cruising. Cruising. And we're talking about doing a high pointer cruise in the Eastern Caribbean. So we'll do the high point of the different islands. So,
oh my gosh, that is so interesting.
Yeah, we'll have more announcements coming on that as we get further into our retirement. But we're exploring some of those here later this month. The kind of doing the preliminary work for the cruise.
That's fun.
So some of them are really easy. You drive tos, right? Just like the regular high points, but other ones you actually have to earn, and there's some hiking involved.
Wow, that's so interesting. Now, before I hit record on our conversation today, you were talking about some territory high points.
Yeah, yep. So the U.S. has 6 territories with congressional representation. And so those are Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, the Northern Mariana Islands.
Hang on, let me Google it.
Oh, and Washington, D.C.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the easy one. Forget that one up there. So Puerto Rico's fairly easy to do. You need to rent a car or have somebody take you there. The Virgin Islands are pretty easy to get to, St. Thomas. You can take a shuttle there and go get a margarita, walk over behind the radio tower and get to that one. Guam takes a little more effort. The hardest one to get to is Agrihan in the Mariana Islands.
Okay.
and I was part of the trip that went there in 2018. And was it 2018? Yeah, 2018. We went to the Mariana Islands. It was the third trip put together by John Mitchler. And oh, yeah, the name's escaping me here. It'll come to me. The other guy in Kalamazoo. Geez, I'm sorry. Him and his uncle would have gone on a couple to Call as their last name. I can't remember the first name. They have gone on 3 trips, and his uncle was not able to go to the one that was successful. So they went back the next year and did it again. So it has been done twice by Highpointer groups. We did it with a group of 11 of us, plus the writer from Outside Magazine, which was in the 2019 January issue of Outside Magazine.
Wow.
Same with David Goggins is on the cover. I'm in the same magazine as him.
Cool.
So if you see a few extra copies of those around the house, that's why because our trip was in that. So we did the trip, and they had 2 other unsuccessful trips to be up to the high point. And this time we laid siege to the island, and we brought 250 gallons of water, 12 of us climbers, and 6 guys we hired to machete our way all the way up to the summit. And then we had to use a transit to find out what point of the crater rim was the high point and make sure we get to that high point. So we took a picture of it, and then it was such a narrow spot and a very small summit on that edge that only maybe 3 of us could get there at a time. And we did have to do fixed ropes to get up there. It was pretty exciting.
Wow, that's interesting. And then American Samoa?
Haven't got that one yet. So
Okay.
That's the multi-step trip. You got to get to Hawaii, and then go to Hawaii. You fly to American Samoa, and then there's the other island that has the high point.
Okay.
And there's no services, no stores. You got to bring everything you need there. Apparently, there's somebody that lets you do a bed and breakfast there, and then you hire a couple locals by the chief, and that can whack your way up to the top. And you could do it in a day if the trail was already cut, but it goes back so fast that you need to maybe prepare an extra day for it. So we're still trying to put together a trip. David Koval's has mentioned I've mentioned I wanted to do it, and so he's trying to put together a group. So that might happen in the future. So maybe a future podcast.
That is so awesome. Yeah, I would love to have you back on to talk about territory high points, because that has not been discussed on the podcast yet. And listeners love lists. And so this is another list, and I would love a discussion about that. That's so fascinating. And, I know that a lot of other guests do national park high points, and the U.S. Virgin Islands and American Samoa are parks. So that could be those high points as well. When you tell your friends and family about your high pointing, what did they say?
Mom says, be careful, which is just another word for saying, I love you. And I always respond back, Mom, I love you more, when she tells me to be careful. Because that's what she's telling me, right?
Yeah.
She's telling me, drive safe. I love you too, Mom. That's what Mom says. Everybody else used to say, ask me, oh, what's next? What are you doing next, Tony? Because you're always doing something. And so people are always asking me. And I almost felt like I got to do something just to tell people something.
Just to have an answer.
Yeah. So.
All right. Okay. How would you say high pointing in the outdoors has enriched your life?
Well, to do all those individual trips, you know how you get more done before you go on vacation? Right? Right before you go on vacation, you get a lot of stuff done. It makes you focused. And with someone that's probably had ADD most of his life, having focus, I get more done the day before I go on a trip. So the goal to get a lot done is to go on a lot of trips. And that's worked well for me.
That's good. I've never heard that answer before. And this is my favorite question. What are some of your favorite outdoor adventure books, podcasts, documentaries, or movies that you would recommend to other listeners?
I really like watching Early Riser, which is he's got a YouTube channel, and he did the AT, and he does a lot of what's going on between here and here.
Okay.
And there's a lot of mental stuff in order to do the stuff that requires a lot of grit and how to maintain your body and food and nutrition. So that's been good. Before him, it probably would have been Dixie. Dixie, everybody knows Dixie on YouTube. I was watching her on her third episode, when she first started the AT. So that was quite a bit back. So I think those have been kind of the influencers, at least online influencers. Some of the other mountain climbers that have done amazing mountain climbing when I was back in the reading days, those were, I read a lot of them, and I forgot a lot of the authors, people's names over there, but
Sure.
Yeah. So I guess he was influencer, and then Michael Gerber with the E-Myth, because I'm an entrepreneur and I've got a couple businesses that'll allow me to do a lot of travel in that. And the E-Myth, I actually get to meet Michael Gerber next month. He's 80 some years old, but he's going to be at the keynote convention he's the keynote speaker at a convention that I'm also speaking at as well. But it'd be fun to go to the Gutter Convention.
That's
The
great.
Gutter Town, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Tony, this has been really fun, and you've had such a fascinating and unique life in the outdoors, and you're not done. It's like you're just starting again. And so I can't wait to keep up with your travels. I'll put your YouTube channel in the notes so that listeners can follow along as well. And I'd love to have you back on after the AT or after the territorial high points to talk more about all of your adventures.
Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for putting this on. I know it's not a small thing. It's a big thing, but you do entertain a lot of us. So thank you.
Thanks, Tony.